Hey everyone, and welcome to another round of Tuesday Night Legacy, presented by Spellhold Games. My name is Eugene, and I will be your commentator, as always, for this round 4, our final round of March 1st. These players actually did split their prizing, which you are allowed to do at Spellhold Games if you are doing super well. You can split your prizing with your opponent, and then walk away for the evening, or if you are so inclined, you can play your round 4 for fun, as these two players so graciously played together so that we could have this footage you're about to see. We have, returning from round 3, Fred playing his lands list, and we have Max playing Doomsday on the right there. Accidentally put blue-black as the player, but no, this is our very own Max G playing his Tempo Doomsday list. So let's see how the Tempo combo versus the control list fares out here. We're going to have Fred start off with a Taiga pass. Passes it back to Max. He's going to play Polluted Delta into an Underground Sea, casting, of course, the Delver of Secrets. With this tempo list, he does include control match. He has his combo list, but he also has this tempo game going on, which we see a lot of blue decks playing the Delver of Secrets, the 3/2 that can end the game as long as you protect it. But we see a huge number of plays here from Fred. He actually cast the... he played Tabernacle of the Pendrell Vale off of a crop rotation, which got him that Tabernacle, and he put down Wasteland for the turn, which blew up the one land that Max had, so he was not able to pay that upkeep cost for the Delver of Secrets. And so here we are a couple turns later, casting another Delver of Secrets off of the Cavern of Souls, which makes it uncounterable. This being Game 1, I don't believe Fred runs any permission in his list until at least Game 2, so it was more that he could just cast that creature off of the Cavern of Souls, not have to break any of his fetch lands. All right, we see a Life from the Loam from Fred, which is going to target that Wasteland and the Taiga. Fred going to cast Mox Diamond, pitching the Taiga once again. Fred explains to Max about the Tabernacle trigger being on the Delver of Secrets itself. So Max said, okay, I'm going to check the top of my library first to see if Delver flips, and then I will decide whether I want to pay my mana to keep this creature around. And even though Delver did not flip, he decided to give it one more turn, see if he's going to get that 3/2 flyer out of the deal here. What's very interesting is Max hasn't cast a single cantrip yet. The blue decks in general, known for casting Ponders and Preordains and Brainstorms, but as we can see from Max's hand, he just doesn't really have that stuff. I think he prioritized keeping that Doomsday over anything else, and so because of that, it looks like he's kind of losing the race here a little bit. Fred not doing a ton of damage, but he is setting up his control over the game. He's got a ton of mana. He's got the Thespian stage, so all he needs a crop rotation into a Dark Depths. There's a crop rotation, getting rid of the Tabernacle, and he actually went and got Wasteland, blowing up the the Underground Sea. So Max stuck on one basic swamp here, going into Fred's turn. He just had the Dark Depths in hand, so that's going to be Game 1. Max can't do anything against that 2020 Merit Lage Indestructible Flyer. Pass. Go into Game 2 here. So Max just going to play that basic swamp and pass the turn. We're going to see a Mox Diamond, pitching Maze of Ith, Dark Depths, Life from the Loam, get him back. Starting with Yavimaya, so Max does have technically a Bayou in play right now, so, with all of that green mana he needs. Oh, we're going to see a turn 2 Dark Ritual, 3 mana into Doomsday. So Doomsday is going to be the namesake of the deck here. Max is going to search up 5 different cards from his deck and graveyard and build a little library out of them. So he's going to exile every other card that he has besides his hand. So his entire library and his entire graveyard are going to be exiled, except for these 5 cards that is going to become his library for the rest of the game. Now, typically this is a combo finisher. So you either finish the game the turn that you cast the Doomsday, or you finish the game the turn after. This tempo list is a little bit different than Max is running here. There's a little bit more interaction, and so he wants to protect his combo, and we will see the win condition. Oh, you also lose half your life when you cast Doomsday. So the interesting thing about Doomsday is that all of those cards do go into exile, and they go in face up. So this is all free information. So what Fred is doing right now is kind of making it a little bit easier for himself to see how many counterspells Max has at his disposal. So he sees that there are 2 dazes in the exile. There's 1 force of negation and 4 force of will. So definitely no forces in that hand, but maybe there's a daze. And so he says, okay, here you go. Here's the rest of your cards. I am happy with this information. I will go to my turn. So Fred basically has between 1 and, I guess, 5, technically, turns to answer this Thassa's Oracle, or try and stop it from resolving. Or try... I'm not even sure if he knew that Max was on Doomsday, as he won the first round. And so things that stop a Thassa's Oracle trigger, like the Stifle will do it, and Dress Down, and Torpor Orb, things that prevent Enter the Battlefield effects from happening, are a really good way of stopping the Thassa's Oracle. Also, if you can control their lands down enough so that they don't have 2 blue to actually cast the Thassa's Oracle, that can do it too. So I think maybe that's where Fred's mind is at. He goes to cast the Sylvan Library, which will resolve even though there was a daze. He had the extra mana for it. We see an Academy runes come down, which is definitely an interesting land, but there are no artifacts to pull back and put back on top of the library. So mostly just a land that can tap for a colorless right now. We see Max take a turn and cast Baleful Strix, which is going to speed up the amount of cards left in his grave at this point. So we see Malevolent Hermit being cast. This is one of the newer cards for this blue-black Tempo Doomsday list. You can sacrifice it for 1 mana to counter a non-creature spell. So basically, this is to shore up any counter magic to try and stop the Thassa's Oracle from being played if you do not have access to the Cavern of Souls when it comes time to cast that spell. We see a dredge from the Life of Malone that was in the grave, and I believe that the Torpor Orb was revealed off of that. So Fred, if he wanted to, could put Torpor Orb back on top of the library if he thought that he had that extra turn, but I don't think he thinks that's going to happen. So Wasteland the Underground Sea, hoping that he doesn't have access to another blue mana. As we can see, the Cavern of Souls is in Max's hand. I think there's 1 card left in the library. And it's going to put it down and cast the Thassa's Oracle. And even if Thassa's Oracle was answered here, if it was killed, he still had 2 other Devotion from the Malevolent Hermit and the Baleful Strix being in play. So his Devotion was at least 2. It was 4 there, so as long as he had 4 or less cards left in his library, then he won the game. We are here in Game 3. We see an Exploration come down for Fred and a Ponder for Max. Exploration, an enchantment that allows you to have an additional land drop each turn. This paired with the Valakut Exploration that we saw in Round 3 can lead to some pretty explosive plays, explosive turns from the lands deck. Ponder resolving on Max's side. He did like the top 3 cards of his library, so he puts them back and draws 1. We see a Sphere of Resistance attempting to come down on Fred's side. That would have made all spells just cost 1 more to cast, which is really difficult for the Doomsday deck. So Max did spend a Force of Will on that. And we see a second Sphere of Resistance come down from Fred. Max deciding, we do see the Force of Will in his hand. Force of will go off and exile the Baleful Strix. We're going to see a Temporal Mastery. off the top. So this is basically just Time Walk if you miracle it. Max must have seen that off of his Ponder and set up for 2 turns, I think he was hoping that he could have a little more action, but he has spent a lot of resources keeping those Spheres of Resistance off the field. So a Brainstorm that, in essence, locks the top 2 cards of his library. Max does know what those are, and he doesn't have any way to change those cards right now. So I believe the term is brain locked, but I don't play blue. So sometimes you have to put bad cards back on top of your library and have no way to get rid of them. This Brainstorm is going to get to see 2 more cards further down. Since he did draw a card, he only knew the top card of his library. Looks like he does have that Doomsday there, which is definitely what he's looking for. 2 cards on top, revealed. And he's going to cast a Malevolent Hermit. Get some disruption out there. Going to cast a Crop Rotation, tapping the forest, sacking the forest. Thinking about what he needs to get here. If I were Fred, what would I get if I knew I'm trying to play around Doomsday. Do I go for the 20/20 here, or do I go for the land disruption? Not entirely certain. All right, chooses the Dark Depths. Oh, no, thought about it just a little bit longer. Decided that was not the correct play. I think Fred has seen that Max has been stumbling on lands for the last few turns here. Didn't have any kind of fetch land or anything last turn, even though he resolved two Brainstorms. So maybe he's rethinking that this is actually the time to disrupt the lands. And if he can keep him off of 2 blue, or 3 black for that matter, then he can't cast Doomsday, can't cast Thassa's Oracle. So he did end up going and getting that Wasteland. We do see a Dark Ritual into a Doomsday here. Just to point out, Fred does have an Urza's Saga on 2 right now. This is going to be a potential win condition for him, especially if Max has to pay 7 life or 8 life actually, to resolve this Doomsday. 8 damage will bring him down to 7. And that'll give Fred an opportunity to maybe get in just straight up for beats, especially if Max is playing the slower game of resolving his Thassa's Oracle trigger. So it looks like Max has got the Murktide Regent, a Petty Theft / Brazen Borrower, and I couldn't tell what the 3rd card was. So if Fred decides to go for the Constructs, then Petty Theft is going to be an absolutely powerhouse of a card, getting rid of one of the 2 Constructs to save his life total. So Brainstorm, Temporal Mastery, Thassa's Oracle, at least 1 land. I'm not sure what that last card is. It might be Cavern of Souls. Yes, I think it is Cavern of Souls. So that's the pile. A Brainstorm into Temporal Mastery, into Island, into Thassa's Oracle, into the Cavern of Souls. Okay, we see the Construct come down. Max presents the Exile pile. Fred says, that's okay, I don't need to see it this time. We are in Fred's main phase 1, deciding what he wants to do with the Urza Saga. He's going to create the 2nd Construct token. These are currently 2 2s with this 0 or 1 drop coming into play. Fred is going to choose Shadow Spear. They are now 3 3s, taking 3 damage. This is going to be an extra damage to get through whichever creature he equips. But now that we know that Max has a Petty Theft in hand, when Fred goes to equip, he's going to get blown out here. So the Brainstorm is going to put some things into Max's hand. I think he's setting up for the Temporal Mastery next turn. We see a Boseiju Crop Rotated. He could have countered it with the Malevolent Hermit, but decided against it. Taiga with red mana. That's probably pretty good indicator of a Pyroblast or a red elemental blast in Fred's hand. So he's just going to go for it. Decides to go for the Pyroblast, destroying the Malevolent Hermit. We see an equip to one of the constructs, the Petty Theft. Instant returning a non-land permanent to its owner's hand. That token, since it doesn't, it's just a token, goes nowhere. And that means that Max went all the way down to 1, but it doesn't matter if you have the win condition for the next turn. Thassa's Oracle coming down, and Max is going to take it for this round 4. Thank you for joining us, and I hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe the video if you haven't already. We're getting really close. We're in the last quarter of the first 100 subscribers, and that's very exciting for the channel. We've only been around 2 months, so here's hoping we can get it before the end of March. Okay, we will see you next week. Please enjoy, and see you soon.